situation. Red change now, we go racing for the first time this season. 3 hours of GT action, it's go.
It's very tight as they come down. Group of cars coming in, this has all got trouble written all over it. There's a G3 car.
Drop downhill, they head towards the Aqua Minerale. Imola, of course.
There's another one off through the gravel. As wide as possible as they drop downhill, putting that from the inside line. Yes, he did. Through he goes.
Good evening everyone, welcome along to the 5th round of Apex Online Racing's Sprint Cup series. This is a very, very wet Zolder you join us at this evening. As you can see, qualifying is wet. I've been pretty much informed the race will be wet as well. And joining me in the booth this evening, as always, is JSR.
Yeah, good evening mate. It's yeah, good to be underway for another AOR round today. Still feeling a little bit battered and bruised, voice-wise myself, but yeah, I think we have a lot of exciting action to be diving into tonight.
Yeah, it should be a really good one. A slightly thinner grid. We also saw that last night as well in the Tier 1 race. I think the mid-season plus a very, very wet Zolder, which is a challenging circuit at the best of times. I think it's maybe just thinned the grid off ever so slightly, but it's looking pretty good in my mind.
Yeah, I think we've definitely still got enough drivers, enough of our main contenders to really set us up for some good racing. And you know, we saw Jamie Nuttall in practice going pretty quick. He's first out on the circuit as well, and is also our championship leader. He is 99 points ahead of the next man in the championship, who I have unfortunately forgotten who that is. And
that is Jordan Watson running in second place at the moment.
It was last week's winner, Jordan Watson, and yeah, it was nice to see him finally get a win on the board as well, because he's come close on a number of occasions in previous seasons as well. So yeah, it was a great weekend for Jordan, but or great Tuesday for Jordan. But yeah, he might struggle a little bit tonight in that Ferrari. It's a car that really does not enjoy the curbs and the undulation around here, and we know that Zolder, it's so dependent upon how well you have your car set up to deal with that chicane. That chicane with the sausage curve, you have to chuck everything at it to really be competitive. So it's a tricky one to stay consistent with.
Yeah, it's definitely a roll the dice kind of circuit, as you were saying. Turn 1 and even turn 2, to be fair, especially in the early laps when everyone's bunched up together, can be fairly tight and hairy from time to time. Seen a few incidents there over the years, especially in the wet. It's going to be a bit difficult, people getting on the brakes. Chicane number 1, as you said, massively aggressive curbs, and you've got to get your run perfect on the exit to get yourself up over the little crest down towards the second chicane, which is equally awful. Not quite so giant curbs this time, but it's not just a left-right, it's a right, left, right again, and it immediately goes into that slight uphill and then over the crest to the left before dropping down to the hairpin. So I think we might see a couple of little bumps and scrapes, but very difficult circuit to pass on this evening. So going to be interesting to see where people make the moves. Qualifying is going to be imperative to a good finish here. So I imagine Nuttall, even though he is miles ahead in the championship, he will be desperate to make sure he puts in a really, really good time.
Yeah, without a doubt, because yeah, overtaking is definitely tricky around here. I think a lot of it tonight is probably going to be strategy-wise that'll end up playing into how the overtakes end up playing out, and doing a lot of it kind of based on the pit lane. As a new person to top of the time, she's Dominic Gultz in the Aston Martin, doing a 34.2, displacing Nuttall, although Nuttall has found 3/10 already on his lap, so he's going to make that 4, so he's definitely going to be responding very quickly. And you know, imagine that the track might get a little bit quicker over the next couple of laps as the cars displace the water, but they've got to be pretty timely about getting those laps in, because in 10 minutes time, so basically towards the end of this session, the rain is going to be increasing.
Ooh.
So these
Sorry,
next
Ferrari
few
in the
minutes,
background just went flying off at turn 3.
I think that was Watson. I think that was last week's winner, the 147. Unfortunately, so yes. Yes, the Ferrari not coping fantastically so far in these conditions. Jamie Nuttall, though, about to round out his second effort, and I think this will go to top of time sheets. It does by a big amount, 33.9 from him, 3.5 of Dominic Gultz. Although, looking at Robin Moe was going pretty quickly as well. He's going to be there or thereabouts.
Yeah, 0.6 over at the moment.
I think. Yeah, he's 1.5 behind, so yeah, good effort there from him as well. Roder and the McLaren got up there. So we've got a few cars that are kind of competing around the sort of potential top positions. We saw that the Hondas, the McLarens, the BMWs were pretty quick. The Aston can be pretty handy around here as well. So I think we're going to have some pretty good fights. But yeah, overtaking is very much going to be either strategy or opportunistic base. I think it's definitely going to be a difficult one for these guys to make passes around here.
100%. I mean, it's one of those things of you have to be really brave in the braking zones to try and get down the inside. I mean, luckily all these guys are sort of top, well, although they are tier 2, they are top tier racers. They know how to race. It's not just that they can quick lap. It is a case they have the racing knowledge as well. So realistically, the people won't slam a door if they know if it's not gonna work. You know, there's no point shutting the door on someone if they're already up your inside. But it takes so much confidence in your own setup and just everything just to get down the inside, especially say if you're coming down towards any of the chicanes and you're trying to outbrake someone, you're massively off the racing line, and it's such an aggressive curve, it can just chew you up and spit you out in an instant. Truly is a roll of the dice circuit, Zolder. Matt York, I'm just noticing, running in 13th place currently at this point in qualifying, so I think that's a pretty decent qualifying for him so far. I believe he was up on his time, it's just gone static now.
I think Robin Moe's about to put in a very close lap for all 3,000ths of a second away from Jamie Nuttall. So he was going sort of back and forth in his delta of setting PB, setting purple sectors. Couldn't quite bring it all together to displace Jamie Nuttall, but makes it Honda front row for the time being. But I already see that Jamie Nuttall is responding and going pretty even with his previous time, but have to see how he fares through a chicane, really lunging
Kieran Paxson on a really
there.
good lap, 0.6 up at the moment, coming through the final turn now. Oh, he's lost a lot of time there though. Oh, that was a bit of a shame, down to 0.3. It's going to be improvement though. Sees him up to 7th place, really good qualifying from him so far.
That's very respectful in the Ferrari as well, actually. We saw even some of the best drivers yesterday in Tier 1 really struggling with the lottery that car in particular suffers with some of these sausage curves and everything. The Ferrari really not too happy on that front. Just keeping an eye on Jamie Nuttall, though. He's 0.2 a second up on his previous lap time, so this is going to be potentially another belter from the Cracked Racing team car. He's lost a bit of momentum on the exit of turn 9 there. You carry all that momentum all the way to the final chicane, but he was pretty neat and tidy through there. Running that towards the line is definitely going to be an improvement for Nuttall, and he's up by another 1/4 of a second there, and that is going to be a very big time for some of the other drivers to try to contend with.
Someone who is taking the fight to him though is Dominic Gultz, 0.7 up on his lap at the moment. He's about halfway round, I suppose, but now dropping down to 0.5, but that's a massive improvement for him. So, oh, actually looking at his best time was a 1:34.07, so oh, and he's abandoned the lap. He has abandoned the lap this time round. So what was possibly going to be an absolutely amazing flyer turned out to be an abandoned lap. So obviously maybe invalidated it ever so slightly, deciding to go back in and get new tyres. Robin Moe's still out there trying to put in decent times, trying to see if there's anyone else on a big improvement.
I think Giacomelli is doing pretty well in the number 6 Audi. Be interested to see how that car fares, but he's found about 0.3 of seconds towards the start-finish line, so it should break his way into the top 10. He does go in towards P7, so good lap there from the Italian.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see how people are running things such as traction control this evening. As we've said before, cars like the Audi, very, very intrusive traction control, but in these kind of weather conditions, you have no choice but to run your traction control at a reasonable number. You can't get away with running it on 1 or 2 in this kind of wet scenario. Every time you try and come out of a corner, you'll end up facing the wrong way otherwise. So interesting to see how these cars get on. Cars that would normally be absolute monsters coming out of the corners on acceleration. This weather is going to nerf some of that acceleration because they simply will not be able to put the power down in this torrential rain. And as John said earlier on, towards the end of this session, it's going to be increasing in rain. So it's not getting any drier. Even though the cars are out there trying to put in and get some warmth on the circuit, it's not going to get any quicker. Did Jamie just do it? No, he didn't. For a moment, I thought that Jamie might have done an even faster lap, but my timing board lied to me.
Someone else that is going to improve is Vensy Rachanov in the 24 Porsche. He's just about to hit a PB. 34.5 for him, sets his way up to P17 and the leading Porsche. So, if nothing else, I think the Porsche is likely to struggle a little bit in these wet weather conditions, and also it's not bad around here. It performs quite well in the corners, but it's just, I think it tends to struggle a little bit when it comes to some of these high curbs sections. And you know, the Porsche is renowned for kind of having that pendulum effect, and when you've got some of these very quick changes of direction, particularly when you go through the likes of that second chicane, that right, left, right, that kind of the way that the back of the car swings is not always too favourable through there. As it really chucks it over the chicane there. So yeah, the Porsche not going to be the most outright competitive car this evening, I think, but he's certainly at least got bragging rights amongst the other Porsche cars. Someone else that is finding a bit of time is Dominic Gulso.
Oh, okay. I was about to say Peachman as well is 0.3 up at the moment. He was actually a second up in Sector 1, so I don't know where he found that time, but he's in third at the moment. Oh, and he stays in third.
Oh, if he invalidated the lap, it would have only been 15 thousandths of a second away, though, from Nuttall.
So he is staying out. It will be interesting to see how that goes. We'll jump on board with Goltz, who is just going through that second chicane now, I believe. So this is what we're saying about this long drag out of that second chicane up over this crest. You never really get any chance to sort of straighten the wheel. You're always putting some sort of turning input in. Down towards the hairpin, very difficult. Do you want to go for a wide and then tuck in tight, or do you want to go for a late apex? Lots of different ways of getting through that turn. Final drag towards the final chicane, and this is the only other place when people come in for their pit stops. It's on the outside of the turn. So what you might find is people going into the pits will be braking later than those taking the chicane. So another place where you've got to be aware of yourself around the time that people are pitting. Oh, there we go. Dominic Goltz up into second place. Absolutely fantastic. A 1:33.8. So a little bit off of Nuttall still, but really good effort by him.
Yeah, without a doubt. He's been in good form last race. He got his first podium of the season. He started off with an 11th place at the opener, then he wasn't able to attend round 2, but then he went up to the top 5, made his way up onto the podium last time out with second. So we'll be looking, trying to see if he can go one better. But obviously with Jamie Nuttall currently at top of timesheets, that is a lot easier said than done. But between the likes of Goltz, Robin Moe and Peachman, there is potential for someone to manage to put together kind of that magic lap at the end of the session and try to displace displace the championship leader from the top of the timesheets. But with that rain kind of ominously looming, I think it's just about holding off for the time being. And see, Jamie Nuttall has just started lap, so he'll have a couple more efforts to try to improve on his lap time. But it's definitely not over and done with just yet. There's still possibilities for people to displace him. I think the main improvement we seem to have at the moment is a Struch in the 88 car, currently down in 15th. He lost a little bit of momentum on the exit of that second chicane though, so that advantage has only gone to a 10th. But yeah, I think what car you take around here is super important as well, not just for the BOP, but you're talking about TC settings and also the ABS. You know, something like the Mercedes is renowned for having very good electronics on board the car, and that makes it quite nice to negotiate in some of these sort of trickier conditions. But whereas you take something like the Audi, for example, is renowned for having terrible TC when it just completely stalls the rear axle. So yeah, that's definitely going to be playing a huge factor in tonight for how everybody gets on.
Yeah, 100%. Someone that did actually make a little improvement a moment ago was Jan Climbs, went from 23rd up to 21st in one of our Porsches. So nice little improvement for him. We'll be pleased with that. There we go. For some reason my YouTube chat was completely frozen, so apologies if we've been ignoring you, but for some reason it hadn't actually updated anything. I think I opened it in the pop-out window a little bit too early, so apologies if anyone said anything. It's just starting to come to life now. I can actually see what's going on. So anybody trying to make improvements, there's nothing sort of wild out there. As you were saying, Astrush still with the odd 0.1 of a second improvement. And actually,
crucially, Gultz and Peachman are also in the pits, as is Robin Mose. So none of the main protagonists I was suggesting that might knock off Jamie Nuttall from the top of the standings are continuing their laps. So it's looking like it could be another pole position for the 114.
Yeah, unless Roda can really sort of pull something out the bag. I mean, he's how far off his time? He's about half a second off of Nuttall's sort of time at the moment, but he's still out there fighting the good fight, but no improvement. Oh, and he's actually down on his time now. I think a little bit of a bad curb take there through that chicane just affected him. And it is amazing how much time you can lose from just taking the curbs a little bit too aggressively. There was a period of time where you did see a lot of people, especially in things like the Mercedes. At one point, it was an absolute curb-eating monstrosity. And people were just basically straight lining it just to try and get a faster lap, and somehow keeping it just within sort of any kind of track limit. But now it would seem that the way the cars drive, the way the current sort of...
Oh dear. Sorry, I just have a number 4 car of Florian Duerkop. I just found stranded sideways across the start-finish line, but just in front of the start-finish line. So the Unicorns of Love Mercedes, I'm assuming they're not improving on his lap and maybe having a bit of moment of frustration there to start at the tail end of top 10. But yeah, no further improvements by the looks of it at the end. I think that wet weather did increase and kind of put a halt to the improvements at the tail end of that session.
Yeah, so there we go. It's looking like the starting grid is going to be pole position Nuttall, second place Gultz, third place Mo, Peachman in 4th and Roda in 5th. Once all the cars are actually on the grid, we'll have a proper go through. Now, normally, John is the main man behind the cameras and everything, so it's usually my job to... It's usually my job to come up with Tim's driver of the day, or Tim's pick. So today, John, I am putting it upon you. It is your job. You have to do John's selection. So you have to choose which driver is going to be your driver of the day.
It would be an absolute honour. That seeing as I'm slightly restrained on what I can do vocally, I shall do my utmost to keep track of all the statistics and the biggest movers through the field. And yeah, and looking at the weather, well, it's definitely wet again. And I did interestingly see a little bit of I'm not sure if it was kind of a brief sneak preview as such before the graphic sorted itself out, if it's over a very weird transition period. But I did see briefly that around the 30-minute mark, it looked like there was going to be an increase in the weather. So I'm not sure if that's just sort of a very brief shower that we're going to have, but certainly looks like the rain is going to be here to stay for the majority of this race. And yeah, we have a mixture of some fantastic cars and drivers at the top of the grid for tonight. So I think it's going to give us an interesting mixture.
Yeah, I really hope it does give us a nice varied race. Right, so let's have a quick go through the leaderboard. So on pole, Jamie Nuttall. Second place is Gultz. Third place is Robin Moe. Tim Peachman in 4th. Lucas Roda in 5th. Pichik in 6th. Gargamelli in 7th. McCoskey in 8th, Kira Patterson in 9th, and rounding out the top 10 is Florian Durakop, who we saw at the end of qualifying there with a bit of frustration. Morgan McCall in 11th place, 12th place for Jay Fang. That's a really good qualifying for him this season. Jordan Watson will be disappointed, down in 13th place. Astrush down in 14th. Christian Steinhauser, 15th place. Matt York with a respectable 16th place in qualifying. Rashinov in 17th. Neuwirth in 18th place. Fan favourite Mirveld in 19th place. And 20th place is Thomas Jack. So 21st place is Yang Climbs. 22nd is Mr. Jones, which is always makes me chuckle that everyone puts their real names and then he puts Mr. Jones. 23rd place is Terminen in the Lexus. 24th place is Colagrosso. And 25th is Fabien Jean-Blanc. So slightly reduced grid this evening, which, to be fair, in the conditions is probably a bit of a godsend. Is Nuttall going to be able to run away with this, as he has done so many times? Or are we going to see something a little bit like what we saw at Watkins Glen, where McCall comes steaming through and pushes forward?
Yeah, I think for McCall specifically, he's probably in a little bit of a compromised position today to do that. But, you know, the two Mercedes, they could have stronger race pace overall relative to their qualifying position. Might just be struggling to kind of get the agility in the car on the lower fuel. But, you know, when everyone's on the heavier fuel, that might all start to bounce out a bit. So they could look to try to make their way through a bit. Jamie Nuttall, though, I have to say, he's been looking he's the only driver to finish on the podium every single time so far this season. He's been looking rapid every single time that we've seen him, and he's in the Honda, which was last night's winning car by quite a significant margin from Luke Whitehead. I mean, in Tier 1, I think we had Hondas 1, 2, and 3 on the starting grid. This time only first and third for the beginning of this race, but I think Jamie Nuttall he's certainly done the initial hard work to try to convert this into what would potentially be a second race victory. But the likes of Dominic Goltz and Robin Moe, Tim Peachman as well. You know, Peachman has been very impressive in race scenarios for general pace, so I don't think we can sort of discount him too much. Roda has been very good as well, and you know, Robin Moe, a little bit of a wild card. He hasn't been at this kind of end of the grid so far this season, so you know, it'd be interesting to see how he deals with that pressure.
And Dominic Goltz for a win. That's going to be the thing, isn't it? Lap 1, he could be very hungry for a win.
Without a doubt. I mean, you know, he's rocking that absolutely fantastic BAR Honda-inspired livery on that car. So, you know, it was remember Jenson Button's famous victory around Hungary in very tricky wet conditions. So who knows? Robin Moe maybe looking to try to repeat that feat. And you know, Dominic Goltz, he's a driver that's been in Tier 2, he's also been in Tier 1, he's got a lot of racecraft experience behind him, and the Aston Martin is typically a very good race car. It's not always the best in qualifying trim, but it is a car that sort of tends to be quite stable, manages its tyres well, and it gives the driver confidence to push. The Honda can be a little bit snappy if you haven't got it exactly in the right window, whereas the Aston Martin is fairly forgiving. So depending on how Jamie Nuttall is feeling on heavier fuel load, how his setup is for the race, you know, we could see some of those other cars start to come into their own in the next hour. So he's done what he needs to do so far, but by no means is it over and done with just yet. And you know, these sorts of conditions do make it tricky. And although, you know, you were saying that the reduced amount of cars could make it a little bit of a godsend, in a way, that also actually means that there's going to be less water displaced from the track when they're all running. So they're actually going to have to contend effectively with wetter conditions than if there were more drivers on circuit. So, as I think someone has already taken out a cone at the second chicane. So that's all factors to play into this, and of course there's track limits as well, which is a big thing around here.
Well, I mean, that cone had it coming, didn't it, really? It was sitting there on the apex. It was mocking us all. So whoever took it out, thank you very much. You get a little round of applause from me. I won't actually clap into my microphone. Nobody at home wants to hear that. But so as they're now coming through the hairpin, heading up towards the final chicane, I haven't noticed, no one's bothered doing any weaving. I think they're just aware that there is no point weaving. It's not going to make any difference today in this wet weather. As we said, at the moment, it's steady, consistent rain. I just noticed, actually, the two McLarens they're running, I believe they're on the same team, are they not? That is Tim Peachman, so that's running for Renwell Esports, and oh no, it's not. They're just two very similar liveries. But here we go. Final run to the line now. Going to be very difficult for everyone at the back of the grid. We'll keep an eye on the leaders to begin with. Is Mo going to be able to make a good run and try and snatch his first victory of the season? They've all stacked up very closely. Here we go. Final run to the line. Waiting on the green light. There we go. Green light. It's a very good start by Nuttall. Already moves across. Going to try and go wide. Oh, but down the inside, Galt's already trying to show his nose. Galt's already looking very, very racing. And Peachman actually looks like he's taken one position away from Mo already, but nearly gets collided with. Still side by side, Nuttall and Galt's. Galt's got to be very careful he doesn't end up too wide and ends up being under attack here coming in towards turn 4. All seems to be pretty clean so far. This is going to be the main one. There's a really big pack towards. Looking back now over the entire grid, you can see. Oh,
yeah, there was a little bit of a punt for. Oh, Patterson orders a two-car collision into the first chicane, and we've got Watson around. We've got an Aston Martin around. Morgan McCall was involved in all of that as well. There's a Lexus off, and yeah, Patterson got bumped off the. That was the exit of turn 4, and then on the entry towards the first chicane, yeah, there was a series of contacts there made with the Ferraris, Astons, and one of the Mercedes, and all that as well. So it was a pretty clean start up until that point, and I think Florian Duacop got tagged and all of that as well.
Yeah, car number 14 really moving under braking there. I think there might be a bit of a post-race look into that. I just went back on the replay, and yeah, car number 14 moving all the way to the left, from the right to the left under braking, and really caught one of the Ferraris completely sort of unawares. I mean, not a lot he could do. He obviously already saw the gap. So back up at the front, Nuttall is just about managing to escape at the moment.
Oh, there's contact on the exit of the final chicane. I see Morgan McCall has gone off there. Watson's come into the pits to try to repair his damage. I didn't see who else was involved in that. McCall's just got going again. I'll try to see if I can catch what was going on. But so McCall was side by side with Patterson. So I don't know if there's been an incident with Patterson again, unfortunately. So McCall was trying to go all around the outside into the final chicane. There was another Aston. I think that might have been a Strooch that was then sent wide onto the exit. Matt York got a compromised line through there as well and lost out in all of that. So yeah, a few cars having incidents on the first lap.
Not a massive amount of room left by McCall there as he went through that second part of the chicane. So kind of a bike come down to being more of a racing incident. He actually ended up being more sort of affected more by the incident than anyone else. So I don't imagine that will be much more than a racing incident on that one, sadly. But yeah, he will not be happy.
There's Neuwirth and Patterson making a little bit of contact on the entry to the second chicane there, and it all got a little bit bumped up behind them with Colagrosso and Meerville, but they're all just about making through there. Okay, also noticed it in all of that lap 1 chaos. Robin Moe, not the start that he would have wanted. He's dropped 3 positions down to 6th place
incident on that final hairpin. Who was that went off? There was a couple of cars rotated there.
That was Fabian Jean-Blanc and Mr. Jones.
Oh, Matt York actually getting together as well with someone on the second chicane there. Just back on the replay now, so keeping an eye on them as they're heading up towards that final chicane. Apologies if any helicopter noise just came through. A helicopter just flew very closely over my house. So, oh, just outbraked himself. Looks like car number 7, and then actually... yeah, and then was Matt York got into the back of one of the other Astons. So we were saying about the Astons being good in a race, but they have had nothing but bad luck. Oh, Tim Peachman putting in the fastest lap of the race now. So taking a couple of laps to maybe get his tyres turned on, but he is now on the chase. And he is no slouch, is Peachman.
Yeah, also just in that last incident, unfortunately, Mr. Jones retiring from the session. I think he got caught up in a couple of those incidents, so deciding to pack in for today, which is a shame. The 723 of McCoskey is putting some pressure onto Robin Moe for 6th place. We've seen that BMW come alive in the race before. We've seen McCoskey, regular Tier 1 driver in Tier 2 for the season, and has on multiple occasions shown his experience of racecraft, and he's really now looking like he's trying to size up a move on the Honda, who may just be struggling a little bit in these conditions.
Yeah, as they obviously and on full fuel weight as well. My camera's taking very long. There we go. It finally caught up. We were watching nothing for a little while then. Apologies about that. But yeah, as we said, the Honda now running on full fuel weight, so really struggling in comparison. And Mikowski obviously has absolutely tons of endurance racing experience here with Apex Online Racing, so he knows how to keep it clean for an hour in the wet. He knows how to just keep chugging around and making up those times. So yeah, he may not have been in the front row of qualifying, but do not disregard him. He will definitely climb his way back up through the grid, just with pure consistency and absolutely fantastic racecraft. Oh, Nuttall again putting in the fastest lap now, taking that back away from Peachman. But it looks like these sort of top three are starting to break away from the pack ever so slightly. Peachman definitely breaking away from Pitchick in 4th place.
Yeah, Dominic Goals was only 300ths of a second adrift of that fastest lap from Nuttall as well. So, yeah, he's looking pretty quick. Oh, we might have a move between Struch and McColl for 19th position. McColl trying to go around the outside in towards the first chicane. That's going to be very, very brave, cutting across the nose of the Aston Martin and taking a kangaroo line on the second apex as well. I imagine Struch may not be too happy about that one because arguably McColl definitely made up the position whilst well, driving potentially a different postcode relative to the Aston Martin, so we'll have to see what they have to say about that. But one way or another, McColl up into 19th place then.
Yeah, McColl obviously feeling a little bit frustrated being further down the grid. As we said, you know, he's a very fast driver, so he may just be feeling a little bit frustrated that now he's having to battle his way back up through the pack. And these are all relatively fast drivers. They're all very similar in time, so it's just a case of oh, there you go, look, already on the move as well, McColl here.
Oh, tiny bit of contact in the entry to the second chicane.
Yeah, it was a very risky move there on Yang climbs. Sort of trying to go around the outside. I just don't know if maybe McColl just didn't expect Yang's climbs to break as much as he did, but that's seriously thrown him off of his pace, and already Struch is now on the attack again. But it does really seem in the braking zones like the Porsche is having to get the car slowed down a lot more before entering the turns. And this is what we were saying earlier on about how the Mercedes, it can be a little bit understeery in the dry, but it means that you're aware of how the car's going to feel in the wet. It does drive very similar in the wet and the dry, as long as you play with your TC a little bit. You know, you don't want to be going too hard on the old Mercedes in the wet, because it does like to kick the tail out from time to time. And there you go, Peachman still running in 3rd place, but has put in the fastest lap of the race again. Oh, amazingly, Nuttall and Peachman have both done exactly the same lap time, a 1:34.427. So I'm currently seeing 2 purple laps, which I thought was a game error, but no, it turns out they're just absolutely matching each other.
Yeah, so it's not something we see all too often, but yeah, it's just showing the yeah, how close these guys are in Tier 2. And last time around, crucially, Gulls and Peachman were actually fractionally faster than Nuttall. Oh, that was a big lap time though from Nuttall, 34.1, and yeah, about 10th clear of those behind. So definitely the top 3 seem to be the class of the field at the moment. Oh, as Lucas Roder's gone very, very wide on the entry towards turn 1. I think he made a bit of a mistake in the first chicane last time around as well, but lost him quite a chunk of time to the likes of Mo and Mikowski, but that's certainly allowing the battle for P5 to heat up a bit. But yeah, the top 3 really seem to be stretching their legs over some of the other drivers behind them. But right now, Nuttall's still doing everything he needs to do to hold position. Mikowski having a look up the inside of Robin Moe. Oh, Moe going very deep on the brake, so towards the chicane, has to cut across the gravel, and unfortunately losing the position. So Mikowski then up towards, up into P6 now. And you know, we're saying about that Tier 1 experience of racecraft, and he didn't even need to try to force the issue too much, just applied the pressure, and Robin Moe cracked straight underneath it.
I do apologise, I thought my screen looked a little bit odd. I had some of the times missing, so thank you for chat for letting me know. I have now popped up the sort of the Delta times. Apologies about that one. I thought everything looked a little bit strange. It was because I did the Super Pole last time, so everything was still in Super Pole setup. So, but yeah, really good move there by Bukowski to get past. Can he now?
Sorry, just up at the front, Dominic Gultz all of a sudden out of nowhere is right on the gearbox of Jamie Knuckle. So I think maybe Knuckle. I wonder if he got spat out by the chicane or something, because that gap has dramatically come down.
Yeah, not a great lap for him last time round of 1:34.8, so compared to 1:34.5. So a really good chunk of time taken out of him there by Gultz and Peachman as well. The pair of them putting in low 34s. Oh, in fact, Peachman's last time was a 34.2. So yeah, he really is attacking still. So
I think McCall just made a move on Yang Climbs towards turn 1, but immediately lost it on the exit. I think he outbraked himself on the inside, so Climbs fighting back and getting through there.
See if we can quickly jump back and catch that one. So yeah, coming through the chicane. McCall still running behind Yang Climbs. Oh, it looked like a really bad exit actually from Climbs there. Leaving the chicane. Just lost a lot of pace. He tries to outbrake himself. Yeah, he goes super deep. Oh, actually, he doesn't even go that deep. Just Climbs just thought to himself, no, I'm just going to absolutely go for the switchback and take that position. Immediately stole the apex away again and took it. So really good bit of driving there from Climbs.
Yeah, just keeping an eye on that Mercedes through the chicane. It seems very comfortable through the chicane. One of the few cars that really deals with the curves nicely. Is still hassling the back of Yang Climbs. Got a huge tank slapper on the exit of turn 8 there, and the Mercedes going to outdrag him well before the braking zone of turn 9. So Morgan McCall, the pressure that he's been applying as Structural might go straight into the back of the Porsche. Has to take avoiding action to the left-hand side there, but Morgan McCall then I think should start to pull away now and makes his way up as Dominic Gultz comes into the pit. So Gultz deciding that he wants to go for that undercut strategy, get himself in some clean air. He did start to drop away again a little bit from Knuckle, who after coming under some more pressure did respond very quickly and put another good lap together. But Dominic Gultz then deciding to pit early, and there's a squabble going on between Neuwirth and Patterson as well, just outside the top 10.
Yeah, that's a really, really early pit stop to go for, isn't it? I mean, fair play to him. I mean, oh yes, and there's a very good squabble going on between Neuwirth and Patterson, and actually Colagrosso as well coming onto the back of him as they head down towards the first chicane. Are we possibly going to see a move here? Camera mounted pretty much at the apex. All of them staying respectful and staying in line at the moment.
Oh, Ferrari! Oh, look at the McLaren! All over the grass. I mean, somehow 3 wide down into walls.
Didn't he? So fair play to Colagrosso there, because I mean that wasn't even necessarily he was going for an and a bit of a bump to the wall. It's getting a bit scrappy, and the real loser there was Neuwirth, not just losing 1 but losing 2, and now he's got fan favourite Meerveld all over the back of him. Sort of one of our tier 2 veterans, as we might say, and he's a really, really good driver. So he is not the kind of person you want sat on your gearbox. He will... Oh, bit of a nudge again there for car number 63, again on the back of... that was back of Colagrosso, wasn't it? So a little bit choppy at the moment. Maybe these guys getting a little bit hot under the collar. Oh, Peachman coming into the pit as well now. So Tim Peachman coming into the pit. He was running in second. So these guys obviously are going to go for the undercut on Nuttall. They obviously think they can do it. So whether or not they were in their minds were thinking we're outlapping you but having to slow down just simply because of Nuttall's pace. I mean, he seemed like he was doing really good times in comparison to them, but who knows?
He's got to be careful though as well, because if he comes out right behind Dominic Gultz, they could end up losing time on each other, as Colagrosso going very wide on the exit of turn 2 there. He's got Neuwirth now trying to put pressure around the outside in towards turn 4. It's a good exit for the Aston Martin, trying to set it up now around the outside towards the next chicane. He's a little bit too far away though, so I imagine Colagrosso will just take the line. Big move to the right hand side though.
I did not think that was going to work, and it hasn't.
He's kangarooed his way over the apex.
Yeah, and here comes Meerveld as well. He tried to close the door on Meerveld, but that Audi absolutely coming through. Oh, a little bit of a nudge though. Again, nothing too malicious, but definitely a lot of rubbing going on this evening. And again, you could just see there, as the Audi lost traction mid-corner, and you see how Meerveld tried to get the power down, you could really see how suddenly the car lost so much pace, and it is just that super aggressive traction control kicking in and just absolutely kills any speed you have. So it's got to be super careful in the Audi. It's like it's a case of the cleaner you are, the faster you are. It really is one of those classic cars. Oh, Florian Duracorp into the pits as well now.
Yeah, also just keep an eye on that whole pit situation. Peachman is 2 seconds behind, 2.5 actually now, behind Dominic Gultz. We'll get an indication on the next lap, I believe, of what Dominic Gultz's pace has been like on this undercut strategy, but unless they might have all arisen from pit stops, but could actually be an indication of how that undercut is working. Meanwhile, Colagrosso and Vince van Meerveld going side by side once again through turns 1 and 2. Meerveld went very, very deep on the entry to the braking zone there, but I think has done just about enough to cover it for the time being. And there's also a bit of a scrap between the Struch and Jan Klimes hossing up as well, with the Aston putting all sorts of pressure on the Porsche just in front. Oh, it's actually further up the field, closer battle, is Krzysztof Mikowski and Lucas Roda.
Yeah,
absolutely no scale.
Come from that was suddenly just popped out of nowhere. And again, like we were saying, this is the thing. He is a really good...
yellow flag for Klimes. That's through the first chicane. I got a horrible feeling. I don't know if there was contact there or if the curb struck us. There's a drive-through as well for number 24.
Quickly having a look at what happened with Klimes. So just coming down towards the first chicane now. What does happen here? Gets on the brakes. There doesn't seem to be any contact. Oh, it was just too much curb. And oh, really a shame as well. The Aston Martin caught up in the incident as well. Had nowhere to go. Was on the brakes, but the Porsche fishtailing all over the place in front of him, so he'll be disappointed in that. But yeah, Rashanov, our leading Porsche with a drive-through penalty, so presumably that's going to be too many cuts on the on those chicanes.
Yeah, he'll be very disappointed with that, as Meerveld comes into pit stop, Rashanov coming in for the drive-through presumably, and crucially, fast lap of the race, Dominic Gultz, the only man right now lapping in the 33s. I think we're still awaiting a representative time from Peachman, but considering that there was barely a second between himself and Jamie Nuttall, that's very much within the sort of window of opportunity for an undercut trying to make his way into the lead, because Mikowski's still all over the back of Roda in front of him, as is McCall trying to hunt around the back of the Aston Martin of Jay Fang in front of him, but the Aston Martin doing enough to hold off the hard-charging Mercedes for the time being. But yeah, Jamie Nuttall, I did see someone in the chat saying that they were very confident that they would come away with P1 today, but Dominic Gultz's strategy, he's pulled off some pretty clever ones in the past, and it's definitely looking like, you know, Jamie Nuttall's last time at 34.7, and Nuttall does come into the pits now, and I think he has to, because otherwise he is very much at risk of losing one, if not two positions. So these are very important times then for our drivers.
These early pit stop as well are now causing very, very early blue flag orders. At the moment, obviously, we've got the battle for what is basically a second place now that's currently going on. And obviously, we've got Matt York in front of them, who is technically a back marker. So he's under blue flag orders, and he is now just starting to hold up the back of Roda. So he's going to have to be a little bit careful that he doesn't hold them up too much. He's gone for at least a full lap, well within sort of, you know, a couple of car lengths of them. I mean, obviously Matt York is no slouch himself. He can definitely race hard, but it does appear that these guys are slowly catching up on him. Oh, Mikowski having a little bit of a look there, maybe going for a different line. Hopefully he can try and get the run down towards the second chicane. Can he do it? Over the crest they come.
Oh, big moment for the Aston on the exit of turn 2 for Jay Fang, straight into the wall, and that's allowed McCall through as well.
Oh, that's going to be disappointing for Jay Fang. He is running, well, he was running in, I've lost him on my timing screen. There he is. Let's go back and see if we can get a little view of that one.
Drive through for McCall as well, so that's even bigger disappointment.
We did wonder if it was coming, didn't we? Because he'd taken some very liberal choices of lines, definitely ignoring the sat nav. Oh yeah, all on his own as well. Then was Jay Fang. He just went a little bit wide, got into that wet gravel, and the wet gravel really does affect you differently to the dry stuff. Oh, Roda into the pits as well now.
Yeah, crucially, Jamie Nuttall also has emerged back into the lead. I think Dominic Gultz, he was lapping very quickly, and then he had one lap that was a 35.3 about 1.5 seconds slower than what he was doing previously. So I think unfortunately made a mistake or either caught some traffic, and that really put some pay to the undercut charge he was applying to Jamie Nuttall. So our top three, all as they were before, with the gaps around 1.5 seconds apiece between each of them.
But it's not over yet. It's still very wet. It's still continuing to be the same amount of wet. So there really is no dry line appearing, is there, at all? Like you said, with less cars on the circuit, less water being displaced, there definitely is no dry line starting to appear. So the circuit's still fully wet. Oh, Robin Moe going through the first chicane there, taking an absolute gargantuan jump over the second load of curbing. I mean, how on earth he kept that Honda on the floor, I have no idea. Obviously, Mikowski's still running in provisional second place at the moment, and actually Matt York, who was a back marker, I would say at this point is possibly starting to pull away from them. So looking pretty good. Oh, Roda comes out the pits though. Is that just the timing board, or has he made the absolute move of the century? He's leaving the pits now. I'm just trying to work out where Nuttall is. He's car number 20. No, car number...
He's behind Peachman and Goltz in that train, so I think
yes,
he's emerged in net P4 at the moment.
Okay, it was the timing screens playing absolute silliness with me. For a moment, I thought he had done the absolute undercut of all undercuts and somehow managed to come out in the lead. Oh, Moe into the pit. I think, who did I just see? Yes,
yeah, Robin Moe in. He also just obliterated a cone on the entry, which was a rather comical sight on my screen, I have to say. But a lot of the cones getting a lot of abuse today, it seems, at the Zolder circuit.
Yeah, the cones have got it coming. They've been high and mighty for far too long, and now the tier 2 drivers are coming for them. So a bit odd at the moment. The guys that you would normally expect to see at the front of the grid are all sort of mid-pack now. So depending on when the rest of the grid decides to pit, he may have the issue of Nuttall actually catching up with the back of some of the slower drivers. So his brilliant idea all really hangs in the balance of whether or not the other drivers in front of him pit early enough. Because if they stay too long, then he's in trouble, isn't he? If people stay all the way out and he's then coming up, because it's then a battle for position. They've got no reason to get out of Nuttall's way. So someone
Sorry to cut you off there. We've got a three-way tussle that's just emerged out of nowhere between Patterson, Neuwirth and Colagrosso. The Ferrari struggling again with that first chicane, and all of a sudden had the Aston Martin and the McLaren all lurking over his gearbox. Then Colagrosso making a slight mistake on the exit of turn 7 there. So that's immediately opened up as I say that. But yeah, without a doubt, Jamie Nuttall's strategy is, and in actual fact the top 3 strategy is very much dependent on how the drivers haven't pitted yet, whether or not they're still around on circuit by the time they catch up to them.
Noticed, obviously McCole had a drive-through penalty, still running in 12th place. Obviously I know he hasn't actually done his official pit yet, but still that's not... Oh no, actually technically I suppose he is near the back, and obviously Rashanov as well. Pretty sure it was Rashanov who got the drive-through as well earlier,
yeah.
Didn't we? So that would explain that one. For a moment I was thinking, good lord, he's done really well to get back up that quickly. But no, a little bit all over the place. Bit of a shuffled order and grid at the moment. This is still definitely sort of the closest battle that we're seeing, although Peachman now just outside of a second behind.
So yellow flag for number 13, that's Thomas Jack. The Porsches are stranded sideways on the exit of the first chicane. That's causing a great deal of grief for Pitchick, Matt York and Mikowski there as well. Giacomelli just getting through. The Porsche has got going again though, but I think that's unfortunately another victim of that first chicane series of the sausage curbs. Yeah, he's all on his own as he's coming down. Hits the first, yeah, and it seems like the Porsches are really easily unsettled by that first curb. He does manage to get the car stopped, but obviously I think he stalled it, and desperate to get it going again. He actually almost seems to stall again as he pulls away, so yeah, very lucky to not cause any incidents. Oh, and there we go, Jamie Nuttall now putting in the fastest lap of this session. So Nuttall running obviously in 12th currently, with a 1:33.9 he's just put in. A couple of other people pitting out, McCole into the pits, Rashanov into the pits, so all starting to shuffle around a little bit. But I wonder if possibly this car number 6344 and 123, that sort of battle for 5th place, I wonder if that is going to keep fighting on, as these guys have got no reason to pit really. And actually now Neuwirth coming up behind the back of Patterson as they cross over the start-finish line, 0.2 between them.
Oh, there we go, Calagrosso into the pit, so immediately I eat my words that these guys aren't going to pit for a while.
Yeah, I do want to burst your bubble on that for a moment. Afraid, yeah, Calagrosso coming in. Another battle that's also just popped up is Florian Duakop and Robin Moe are pretty close to one another. Unicorns of Love, Mercedes having a bit of a wiggle on the exit of turn 8 there, but the Mercedes does seem to be in a pretty competitive spot at the moment. And Robin Moe, he does seem to have kind of dropped back in terms of his relative pace for he showed in qualifying. Great position starting P3, but he lost positions on the opening lap, and it doesn't quite seem like he's had the race pace to climb his way back up, and he's got a lot of pressure now from behind from the number 4 Mercedes. But yeah, Florian not quite close enough to do much about it just yet.
Ooh, big wiggle into turn 1 as well there, wasn't it? I think that lost him a little bit of pace on the back of Moe. Also got cars starting to emerge from the pits. Very odd pit exit here. It's just before the entrance to turn 2. So it'd be interesting to see how some people get away with this. Car number 44 and 29 pretty close together right there as well. So the main battles going on is this one here for 14th place. Obviously they're going to gain some positions as cars in front pit. God, this Mercedes just absolutely devours the curbing here, doesn't it? It is absolutely fantastic the way it drives over the curbs. Oh, there we go. Right, big batch of cars in. Noah, Fang, Astrush, all into the pits. So that was 5th, 6th and 7th respectively. So expect to see a couple of big shuffle in the timing boards again. I think Mikowski actually, yeah, right on the back of pitching now. So this is the battle for first of the unpitted cars. Coming towards the second chicane. Is he close enough? I'm sorry, is he close enough to make a move? I don't think so, but he's definitely putting the pressure on the back of that car.
Yeah, without doubt, Mikowski really showing some good, strong race pace at the moment. Another battle that's kind of emerged with the pit stops is Van Meerveld versus Colagrosso. Colagrosso came out of the pits, and I've noticed over the last couple of laps, Van Meerveld making a very conscious effort to stay on the left-hand side of the track on the run down towards the first chicane. So that'll be to cool his tyres down. So, sorry, that was actually on the run towards the final chicane, but I saw him doing it towards the first one as well. So he's also a little bit mindful about his tyre pressures and temperatures at the moment. So that is possibly a factor that's playing into all of this as well. As they've got someone emerging out of the pits just in front of them. That's Neuwirth that's now side by side with Colagrosso through turn 2 there, and there's a tiny little bit of run between the pair of them. That's allowed Meerveld to sweep around the outside, so Neuwirth the loser in all of that then, although almost coming back at the Audi, but just unable to do anything for the time being. I saw also Pitchick has come into the pit, so that's allowed Mikowski to run around in some free air, which I'm sure he'll be quite pleased about. But it might simply be the case that, considering we've got cars that are quite clearly having to do a little bit of tyre management heat-wise and things like that, the BMW, generally speaking, is a car that takes care of its tyres quite well. As Meerveld makes a mistake at a second chicane, runs through the gravel, I think he'll still be ahead enough, though, to hold the position over Neuwirth. But it could be that BMW is just holding onto his tyres a little bit better, and that's why he's able to have that bit of a stronger comeback in pace in the end part of this first stint. And how long he stays out on those tyres will be an interesting question, because although he might be managing very well, eventually there is going to be that sort of, regardless of the pace differences, there is going to be that advantage where the fresh tyres start to come back at him. So I have to see how he copes with that.
Oh, possible move here going to be into turn 1. Neuwirth on Meerveld. He had a really good exit of that final chicane. He does have a little look to the inside, decides not to. Runs through turn 1. Jamie Nuttall up into 3rd place overall now. Oh, Neuwirth again. Is he going to try and go for the switchback? He goes wide. He then goes for the apex. But oh, look at that. Meerveld perfectly defending that part of the circuit. Just drives right where he needs to be, holding off Neuwirth. So even though he was compromised on his exit, he just placed the car. Absolutely great bit of racecraft there. Absolutely fantastic. I did just quickly see in the chat, possible move down the inside into the first chicane. Again, no, just can't outbrake the Audi. Big
that was a lunge
jump.
and a half, though, from Van Meerveld. He certainly went to his best aeroplane impression through there. We also had a bit of a squabble between Colagrosso and Kieran Patterson just ahead of these two, as Patterson, I believe, was the one coming out of the pits. He's got all over the exit grass there, so that's going to allow the McLaren to extend away and fall back a little bit into the clutches of the Audi. And also Florian Duacop was right around Giacomelli when the Audi emerged from the pits, and the Unicorns of Love Mercedes coming out on top in all of that, as Terminen, our penultimate driver to come into the pits, Alexis, serving their pit stop, but Mikoski in that BMW still deciding to stay out, so he's clearly putting preference over clear air for fresh tyres. And I have to say, I'm not surprised with the pace he's showing. A 33.9 at this stage in the race is faster than Jamie Nuttall, who's the next fastest driver, and he's on fresh tyres. So this BMW is doing a fantastic job at holding onto its tyres, and that could put him in a fantastic position when he does eventually serve his pit stop. So we'll certainly have to keep an eye on that M4, because he's running in clean air, doing very competitive laps at the moment, and could seriously be a threat to some of those other drivers who are around the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, if he can keep putting laps in like that, that is going to absolutely tear away at any gaps that people have in front of him. He'll be able to really sort of reel them in. Oh, Florian Duacop really catch up with the back of Mo there after that first chicane.
Oh, we've got a move here for 14th position then. The Audi, unfortunately, doing the gamble with the chicane once again and not playing out the way that Van Meerville would have wanted. Neuwirth just sweeping around the outside. Also, crucially, we missed it, but I think Dominic Galtz made a mistake last lap around, and he's lost a position to Peachman, so the McLaren now up into effective P2. The Aston Martin that at one point was looking to make a challenge for the lead, now just holding on to the final podium position, and we're trying to hunt down Peachman, see if he can reduce that gap down, but yes, this circuit's still catching out a few of our drivers, and there's still almost half this race to go, as Dominic Galtz takes a huge chunk of curb actually on the entry towards turn 1 there, and they still have to be very much aware of track limits and try not to get themselves a drive-through penalties. There's still many turns that can happen in this race, but again, I do want to highlight it. Mikoski 34.2. Last lap around, Jamie Nuttall 34.9, so he's 7/10 clear of the race leader, who has that race lead by about 4 seconds. So it wasn't the strongest lap last time around from Jamie Nuttall, but it just puts into perspective how well Mikoski is driving at the moment in that BMW.
Exactly, as you were saying, it just and like we said earlier on as well, it is that consistency that comes with endurance racing, that you can just, you're not thinking, oh, it's a quick sprint, it's making those tyres work and last the entire hour. I mean, realistically, he's done half the race now, so he could pit, and he knows his tyres are going to be the same for the second half of the race as well. So it's a case of, does he stay in clean air, or does he keep pushing and try and hold on to, sort of keep his tyres for as long as possible, or does he pit fresh tyres, hope he can get the pace up? He's probably in a bit of a quandary himself at this moment as to what is his best option. I mean, but what he's doing at the moment is just, as you said, consistently being really fast. It's not just a case of, a little bit quicker than people on cold tyres. He is consistently putting in faster laps than everyone else out there. Although it doesn't have the fastest lap of the race still. Doesn't have the fastest lap of the race.
Not quite, although that could change when he puts a fresh set of boots on that BMW. He could, if he gets himself in some clean air again, I imagine, based on what he's doing at the moment, that BMW could be very quick. And the battle heating up once again with Florian Duacop and Robin Moe. Mercedes has gained a bit of time onto that BAR Honda livery 113 car, so might see something happen between those two in the not too distant future. Also did see that there was another battle that was just sort of closing in. I think that was
Grosso looks pretty close as well. That was 0.3 last time.
Yes,
someone that was having a good fight earlier on was Matt York and Terminen. I did cut to them, but we were mid talking about someone else, so I did cut to them for a little while. But Terminen came out the pitch right in front of Matt York and was within his clutches for a little while. But actually, big jump there from Watson, and he's lost a position there to Colagrosso. Just cannot get the run out of the first chicane. Massive jump on the exit and could not get the power down as he tried to leave. He didn't actually sort of go offline or very squirrely, but I just think the fact that the car jumped twice on landing. I just don't think he'd get the power down again. And Colagrosso has just monstered away of him. Already put about 3 cars lengths between him before they get to that final hairpin. So really good little move there by Colagrosso. Just kept it clean. And again, absolutely monsters away from him. Really good little drive from him there.
Yeah, I saw Jardier his kind of warm up into this race yesterday. He's obviously supporting the Ferrari in Tier 1 as well, and he had a quite the giggle to himself as the kangaroo effect of the Ferrari. It does seem to have some slightly peculiar suspension physics for these sausage curbs, and yeah, unfortunately, and we've seen it happen to Patterson, we've seen it happen to Watson now, and last week's winner not having a fantastic time today has got the honours of being the fastest Ferrari, or lead Ferrari at the moment, but 12th position for the man that's currently second in the standings. He'll be a little bit frustrated about that one. There was also a swapping of position between Matt York and Terminen. I think Terminen made a little bit of a mistake through the chicane, and that allowed the Aston Martin through in all of that. And also just again kind of keeping an eye on things at the pointy end of the grid. McCoskey still lapping in the low 34s, pretty even with Jamie Nutt the last time around, but very solid lap times with most of the front runners, although fastest car actually was Lucas Roda on the last lap. The McLaren driver currently sitting in P5, driving very well at the moment, did a 34.0 last time around, and trying to see if he can bump his way up the order. So that's one of the cars I think is kind of in the net scrap for the positions that McCoskey will be emerging out into. So he'll potentially be a little bit conscious of that. Very even between McCoskey and Roda on those last laps, but yeah, it's going to be very, very tight, I imagine, between those two. But McCoskey's still doing a stellar job to keep those tyres at the pace that they're lapping at the moment.
Yeah, obviously the setup, the tyre pressures, and again, and just the way he's driving it, not overheating the brakes, not overworking the tyres, just keeping those nice, clean, fast laps. It is a real skill in itself, just keeping the car within that magical window of performance, trying to balance sort of overall speed with the sort of drivability of the car. Got to be set. I'm just keeping an eye on the battle between Peachman and Goltz. Peachman really sending that little McLaren through that first chicane. Absolutely fantastic stuff. How on earth it is surviving the curb strikes, I have no idea. I mean, I would not be surprised if a couple of drivers out here this evening are starting to see pressure loss on some of the tyres. It does happen, especially on that first chicane. Very easy to sort of go for an absolutely flying lap and you end up losing a bit of pressure. Oh, Duracorp. Last time round, he went through the timing boards, was really close on the back of on Robin Moe, but it looks like it's opened up a little bit. And actually, Guy Camelli really closing up on the back of that number 4 Mercedes now. So the Unicorns of Love car might be under attack.
Yeah, that trio has been one that's kind of been going a bit back and forth for a while. They've also got Pitchick not too far in front. Bearing in mind, Pitchick was battling with McCoskey before coming into his pit stop. So this is kind of right around the area of cars that McCoskey is desperately trying to come out in front of. Last time around, I think he got stuck behind a little bit of traffic, did our current race leader.
Sorry,
and he lost about 10. Oh, another drive-through for Rachanov.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be disappointing. That's certainly kicking the teeth.
Second one of this race. Yeah, there's no coming back from that, really. 20 minutes left of the race as well. Oh, I've got to cut back to, I think, Dominic Goltz as... That is suddenly looking like a very, very close battle. Where's he gone? Dominic Goltz. There was 0.4 last time the timing screen popped up. I think it may have changed again slightly, but he is slowly reeling in the back of Peachman. Just looking at the way that cars drive, it really does look like the McLaren has much more of a slide through the turns. Doesn't look as planted, although he's really pulled away very quickly there over that little crest. So, I mean,
I think that'll be the difference with the engine placement. With that, we've got mid-engine McLaren versus the front-engine Aston Martin. So the Aston Martin typically, much like the M4, will kind of be a car that, sort of just kind of coasts its way through as Peachman goes very deep into the final chicane, actually, so that's not going to be helping him there. The McLaren has a couple of weird characteristics, actually. It's one of those cars very quick in the sort of high-speed corners, has a very good aero package. But one of the weirdest characteristics about this car is its braking. It has a huge tendency to understeer under brakes. If you're not careful about kind of your trail braking, the amount of ABS that you're using, where that brake bias is positioned, you will just go straight. If you slam on the brake pedal, you will just go straight. And I think, unfortunately, that's the problem that the Peachman's run into on the entry towards turn 1 there, and that's brought that gap down by a good few tenths. So that's within half a second now is Dominic Goltz, as is the likes of Florian Duacop to the back of Robin Moe. So we've got a couple of battles that are starting to heat up a little bit as with 20 minutes left to go, and our race leader McCoskey still has not come into the pits, but he's still setting very reasonable and competitive lap times.
Yeah, I think I did see in the chat someone was asking what the gap is. Live gap seems to be about 2.5 seconds, around 2.5 seconds between Nutter and McCoskey. For some reason, it doesn't always like to show the actual live timing, does it? It's a bit odd. It would just say 1 lap, but he's definitely not a lap up, that's for certain. Peachman under attack now from Goltz.
Oh, Patterson off on the exit of the first chicane, which was actually giving our race leader a little bit of trouble. So I'm not sure what happened to the Ferrari there. I think he may have potentially made a mistake on his own, and also Florian Duacop gave a bit of a bump to Robin Moe as well.
Right, on board with Kieran Patterson now as he comes through the first chicane. Yeah, just a little bit too much second curve, and it just rotated the car around. Ooh, very risky rejoin, and actually ends up over-rotating again. And little bit tight, a little bit risky on those rejoins, but luckily no one else involved. But that has seen him tumbling down to 17th place, and he has got Matt York on the back of him already. And I imagine Matt York will be desperate to gain a few positions back. Going to go back up to the front again. The sort of ongoing battle is this battle for 4th place still raging on, and the battle for 7th place is also raging on.
Oh, there was a compromised exit for Dominic Goltz following Peachman through there. It's so difficult once you get up that close and personal with the car in front. It does start to get very, very difficult for you to really finally pick your line through that chicane. As see Florian Duacop then still right on the back of the Honda. If that Mercedes, like I said earlier, really fares very nicely through that chicane, I think that's where Florian is really gaining a lot of time. The Honda does start to stretch his legs in a couple of areas, but the number 4 car looking quite competitive. Robin Moe thinking about defending the inside, sort of pucks in the middle of the road. Duacop looking right and left, unable to make a move at the moment, and a little bit of a drift on the exit of that corner there as well. So I don't think he'll be able to get a run unless it's a big dive towards the final chicane. But that Mercedes looking particularly racy, but he has got to be careful because that Audi is lurking in his mirrors just behind.
Yeah, he's not going defensive yet, though, is he? He is still full attack on the back of Moe. He obviously is desperate to get past him, so he's not defending quite yet from the Audi, but he's going to have to be careful, because if he keeps going for these little attacks and compromising himself, Guy Camelli will just come on past. He will not hesitate to take a gap if there's one there. Again, we've seen him a couple of races. He's a very, very good racer. Ooh, good drive there by Duacop, though. Are we going to see anything down here into turn 3, or turn 4, sorry? Possibly not. He's going to try and line it up as good as he possibly can down towards the chicane. Looked like a good run. He's definitely gaining. Can he jink to the left and try and get down the inside? No, not quite. Both of them.
Someone that's trying to, though. Lucas Roeder is a compromised exit for Dominic Goltz through the chicane, and the McLaren all over the back of the Aston Martin now. Almost managed to sneak it down the inside on the run through turn 6, but Dominic Goltz just about covering it off. But right now it does seem like that Aston Martin in the second phase of the race is particularly struggling, and he's spotted his braking point nicely into turn 9 though, so we'll be able to hold the position for now. But right now coming under all sorts of pressure from that bright yellow McLaren.
Yeah, Roeder really starting to put the pressure on. I say obviously he's been up around the front of the grid, which I think where he qualified. I think it was it 4th or 5th? I think he qualified, so he's stayed within a very sort of select part of the grid the entire race. Lost a little bit of ground, I think, over the first few laps, but has really come back. Just a quick one, just reminding everyone that Mikowski still hasn't pitted. 27 laps under his belt. 16 minutes left to go, and he still has not done his mandatory pit stop. And his gap between him and Nuttall is maybe increased ever so slightly, sort of back and forth. Actually, it looked like it might have actually come down by a few points of a second. Obviously, the live timing goes up and down furiously all the time. So, oh, here we go. Possible move down into the first chicane. Oh, doesn't manage to make the move. Can't quite get the overlap he wanted. And it has to reside for another lap behind the Aston Martin. Quick one in the chat, someone asking Russianov, that drive-through taking a long time. Yeah, I think what they've done is, with that second drive-through, they've just decided to park it in the pits. Not actually leaving the race, but they've just decided to park it in the pits. Obviously well off the pace of everyone else. It's very wet weather, very difficult to be a back marker in these conditions, so understandably going for the option of staying out of everyone else's way. So a very respectful decision to make there. Quickly jumping back on board with this battle for 7th place. Florian just cannot seem to be able to break through and take away 7th position, can he?
Yellow flag for Fabien Jean Blanc, the 511 car. That's the exit of turn 4. So an unusual one thing. He's got Jan Climbs that's going to be charging up behind him as well. I don't think he'll be close enough to make a move, but the Aston Martin, I think, he's gone very deep on the brakes towards the chicane, and that will allow Jan Climbs actually to make up the overtake. So I think the 511 Aston Martin just running wide on the exit of turn 4, it can spit you out if you do get it upset over the curb and everything and all that. And I think, unfortunately, that's what's happened to Fabien there.
Yeah, trying to roll on the throttle, I think, a little bit. It's like you said, that outside curb, especially if you dip a wheel over into the gravel, very easy to suddenly lose all traction. It's quite an aggressive curb, but the gravel's quite deep, very, very easy to bottom the car out and end up with a slight over-rotation. Very lucky, actually, that he came to a stop where he did manage to get going without too much damage to the car itself. And obviously in the wet, not quite... Oh, Makowski into the pits. So this is going to be the one to watch. It's going to be, where does Makowski come out?
Sorry to cut you off with almost a move in play for Duacot versus Robin Moe. It's the best exit from the chicane. He's out in a while. He's forcing the issue down the inside, and he's made contact with the Honda, and he's sent around. That's a very tricky section of the circuit to try to go side by side through. And yeah, I mean, Florian will feel like he had the door shut, and Robin Moe will feel that the number 4 car came from too far back. But unfortunately, in all of that, Florian being sent down towards 9th place. But the man says thank you very much for all that. Will be Giacomelli, who's been hanging on to the tail of this train for a while and has benefited quite nicely and get himself up into 8th position.
So Makowski already leaving the pits. He's on the run. This could be a massive gain for him if he can actually get down to turn 2 that quickly. And he is. He's going to come out in 3rd place. And again, look, there we go. Parks the car on the apex. No, can't come through. This is my line now.
From Gultz.
I mean, fair play there to Makowski. Really well played. And it's immediately put Gultz under attack from Broder. So that's going to mean that, you know, possibly Makowski's going to have a little bit of breathing room while these two squabble. But as we said, it is that racecraft. It is parking the car in the right place. He had full right to take the apex there. He was in front.
Oh dear.
Gultz, yeah, Gultz and Roder getting together there. No, it was a bit messy between the two of them. I think it was a case of Gultz being a little bit off pace, obviously after catching up with Makowski in turn 2. And then Roder really trying to be on the offensive and try and take a position back. But neither of them willing to give an inch. And it's pretty much held them down, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was. That all started to unfold pretty quickly. The only thing that I imagine, because there was a little bit of contact between Gultz and Makowski on the entry towards turn 2, and yeah, Makowski he did park his car in a defensive way, but the argument that Dominic Gultz might make, as there's a yellow flag out actually for Kieran Patterson on the exit of the first chicane, so the Ferrari unfortunately suffering as victim once again. Oh dear, as he hasn't quite managed to get it pointing in. That's not going great for Kieran, I must say, and he's looped it around again. He's having a 3 times a charm for the 1, 2, 3 car to get it pointing the right way, and I do believe he's now underway. I think he got it all sorts of wrong on the exit for chicane, and then when he tried to get it going again, he unfortunately spun it around about 3 times, and in all of that lost, I think, about 4 or 5 positions as a result. But yeah, just coming back to that McCoskey and Gult's incident that, yeah, whether or not Gultz will argue that the 723 car was a little bit aggressive on the pit lane exit, because I think there was a little bit of crossing over the white line on the exit, and strictly speaking, he should have confined himself more towards that tight line. So
yeah.
I have to see whether or not anything unfolds in the stewards' inquiries afterwards, but at least in terms of how it played out on track, it's allowed the BMW to get himself into a podium position for the time being, and now set his sights onto Peachman. And considering how fresh those tyres are on the BMW, there's a very good chance that he could close down the McLaren in these final stages.
Yeah, oh, although the really bad exit there as he came through that hairpin, it really slowed him right down. A bit of a bad exit. Yeah, I say, obviously, really it will come down to whether or not Gultz decides to put in a sort of a complaint, really, if he wants to report the incident. If he doesn't report it, then there's quite the possibility that Mikowski, it won't get investigated, essentially, unless you know, someone else involved reports the incident, then you know, it won't be enforced. But so it's really going to come down to whether or not Gultz decides he wants to have that looked into further. Understandably, if he did, as it did obviously really affect him, and he nearly lost the position to Roda. Oh, Colagrosso down in 11th place, just putting the fastest lap of the race, a 1:33.8. So
that's very impressive from the McLaren.
Yeah, it's really good going, and this late in the race as well. So where that sudden boost of speed came from, not entirely sure. He's chasing after the back of Steinhauser at the moment. He's running in 10th place, who I would say, I'm not sure where he qualified, but he's really kept his nose clean again this race, and has just slowly kept himself going, hasn't he? He's on the back of Florian Durkop, actually. Sorry, Durkop. So there is the possibility that he might be still pushing forward. I'm just trying to have a little look at their times now. Durkop suddenly running in 10th place. Where's he dropped from? I'm sure he wasn't in 10th.
So he had an incident with Robin Moe a few laps ago,
yes.
that dropped him a couple of positions. So he was running, I believe, in 8th at the time, and then he's dropped down from Giacomelli and all that.
A little bit of positions lost, and again, that is not what he wants. Just having a look now, Mikowski really taking the battle to Peachman, it looks like, up in front. So this sort of Roda versus Gultz, and then Mikowski versus Peachman, and all while this is going on, Nuttall with a 5.2 second lead. So yeah, earlier on we said in the chat that just because he had a 6-second lead doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, he's going to keep it after the pit stops. Turns out he has. He really has. He seems very at home in that Honda. He seems very at home in a wet Honda as well. So master of all the surfaces, it would seem.
Yeah, without a doubt, he's certainly putting on a. Obviously, he's far from being champion yet, but he's putting on a champion's drive and a stellar effort. Meanwhile, there's still also a battle between Giacomelli and Robin Moe. Robin Moe, he keeps on opening up the gap from time to time, but he just makes a couple of mistakes here and there, and it allows Giacomelli to close up. But that Audi is nowhere near as comfortable over that first chicane, so it's very back and forth between those two. But yeah, definitely our two closest fights on circuit is the likes of Mikowski and Peachman.
Yeah, that Giacomelli actually really good for that second chicane. They've got a really good run at the back of Moe now. Possibly going to see something here. No, a little bit unsettled there, and you just saw the car lose a bit of traction. This is obviously the first couple of laps where he hasn't had Duracop in the middle of these two. So this is the first time that really Giacomelli's been able to go on the full assault. So it'd be interesting to see what he can do and if he can make a move past Moe and get himself up into 7th place. Oh, Mikowski, yeah, 0.2 of a second now as they're coming down towards turn 1. Just looking at the way these two cars corner, it seems really well settled, and actually Peachman having to use a lot more curb. Oh, nearly goes into the back of him.
Oh,
unsettled himself, yeah. Getting on the brakes a lot later than he wanted to, was still the brakes while turning in, and really unsettled the back of that car. Peachman very lucky not to receive a little knock to the back end there, and Mikowski very lucky to hold on to it. But already closes the gap up, so Peachman really struggling now and having to go a little bit defensive there, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was defensive or to cool his tyres, because I've seen a few cars doing that already, and that BMW lurking around the back again, trying to cut towards the inside, but he's not going to get an invitation there, and Peachman parking it right in the middle of the braking zone. That's always so tricky, and that's a very scary thing to do actually for both cars there, because Peachman is hoping that McCoskey is going to react. Oh, it's a yellow flag for Duacop, who I think has unfortunately, I think he's looped it around on the exit of the first chicane, as he tries to get it going as well. That's going to allow Watson and Neuwirth through. Neuwirth has actually got past Watson on this last lap, so Florian's day unfortunately goes from bad to worse there, and didn't have as much trouble as Passon did earlier to get going again, but yeah, now dropping well outside of the top 10, so he'll be disappointed in all of that. But yeah, we have three sort of fights that seem to be going on at the moment. We've got McCoskey obviously trying to put pressure on for that P2 position. Giacomelli still hunting around the back of Robin Moe. Another one that's been developing over the last couple of laps is our driver with the fastest lap, Colagrosso, versus Christian Steinhauser, as that gap has been well under half a second for the last couple of laps, as see McCoskey again all over the back of Peachman. He might actually have a run this time. It seems to be an area that the BMW is very, very quick, and Peachman having to truly defend the inside line this time. He moves across quite late, goes a little bit deep under the brakes end. BMW trying to see if he can get a better exit. He's absolutely hooked under that rear wing. Will he look for another dive on the run down towards turn 7? I think it's a bit too far back, so very different lines though between them as they went through there. The BMW, I'm not sure if that will be cutting territory for how much he took out of that first apex, but certainly looking a lot more aggressive and on the attack at the moment in these final 4 minutes of the race.
Yeah, definitely on the attack, and I wonder if maybe he's thinking to himself, oh, I've got a couple of track cuts I can afford to use. Maybe let's just use a couple of those up. You know, it happens in real life racing as well. People think to themselves, well, it's towards the end of my stint, let's just, let's add a few, let's take a few extra risks, try and gain that position. I say these guys already in the battle for second place, so they're on the podium, but obviously Mikowski looking to try and get second place honours. And so yeah, just under 4 minutes left of the race now. I'm going to jump across to the helicam. It means we can have a good look at this battle going on here, and also can jump back to Roda, who is now starting to drop away from Goltz ever so slightly. And obviously we'll have a quick look back with our fastest lap at Giacomelli. Not Giacomelli, sorry, Colagrosso, that's who I meant. Who looks like he might be trying to make a move down to turn 1, not able to. Steinhauser covers it off beautifully. Again, Steinhauser running in 9th place, and again...
Oh, another drive-through for the 511 of Jean Blanc, so unfortunately, that's painful. With only 3 minutes left to go as well. He's obviously been a bit too sparing with the remaining warnings that he had in the final stages of the race. So yeah, Jean Blanc will be disappointed with that.
Very, very easy to just towards the end of the race. They've been doing this for an hour. It's really, really easy just to drift off slightly. You make silly mistakes, you shift down one too many gears, you over brake, and it's so easy to then end up going off track, especially through these chicanes. God, Colagrosso really on the back of Steinhauser down through that second chicane, really pushing hard, trying to get onto the back of him. He's got just under 2.5 minutes left to try and get a move done, and not quite able to. You see the battle at the front as well still rages on. Peachman holding off the back of Bukowski. Sorry, holding off the front of Bukowski. I do apologise. You know what?
Also, Roda closed up a lot on the last lap to Dominic Goltzy. Oh, there's a yellow flag for Robin Moe. Oh, Robin Moe around. I've got a feeling there might have been contact potentially with Giacomelli into the final chicane. So the Honda sent around. Yeah. And that's allowed Giacomelli through. He's still got enough of an advantage in front of Steinhauser, but yeah, difficult stuff for the BAR Honda 113 car there. So his day after that brilliant qualifying position, unfortunately goes from bad to worse.
Oh, and to be yeah, Robin Moe just takes a knock to the gearbox entering that first part of the chicane. We'll say sort of in defence of Colagrosso, not Colagrosso, it was Giacomelli. He did try and go to the outside under braking. I think he just outbraked himself. Obviously, still not going to be very good for Robin Moe, but he did try and avoid the incident. He didn't just keep turning for the apex, he tried to go out to the right to avoid it, but it was just too late. Speaking of just too late, I don't know if Mikowski's going to have enough time to get past Peachman down into the last minute of the race now. 0.4 between them, and Roda to Goltz as well is 0.4 of a second. It's sort of on a case of where do you look? These 4 cars battling on track. In fact, actually, from this camera angle, you can almost see both battles at once. So we might stick with this for a little bit. You can see Mikowski up in front. Obviously, you can then see Roda trying to hold on to the back of Goltz. Goltz just managing to stretch away a little bit. I think we are going to maybe keep a little bit of a closer eye on the Mikowski battle, because this is got to be their last lap, I presume now.
It is.
Yeah.
One more opportunity for Mikowski to try to make this one stick. As always, there's a swap of position. So I think Giacomelli may have just lifted and given the position back to Robin Moe. So great sportsmanship.
Possible move here. There's already an overlap coming down out turn 4. Sorry, coming down towards the first chicane now. Mikowski round the outside. It's going to be risky. He's going to have to try and outbrake the McLaren. Doesn't do it. They both give each other room. The McLaren goes deep over the curbs. And there we go. I think
came to a complete halt over curb as well.
I wonder if he doesn't have any track cuts left, and so had to brake to make sure he didn't receive a drive-through. So Mikowski gets second place. Peachman down into third place now, and already under attack actually from Goltz. So he might be in danger of losing another position. He's going to be absolutely clamouring to hold on to this podium spot. He's only got a few corners to go, so he's going to have to keep his elbows out, I think, as I imagine Goltz will be thinking, oh, again, he looks down the inside.
Oh, dear.
That's a mistake. Oh, and there's collisions again.
Roda takes a pair of them on the grass.
Yeah, I mean, oof, and a bit of a rejoin there, but we're going to jump across to our leader as he comes across the line now. Nuttall, after another stellar performance, 7.2 seconds ahead. Great finish for him. Mikowski coming across in second place. He'll be really
pitching and Dominic Goltz in the side-by-side through the final chicane, and there's going to be a drag race between the Aston Martins. Pitching has a little bit of extra momentum. I think Dominic Goltz might just about hold it off.
Yeah,
Goltz does. That was about last-ditch attempt from Goltz. Completely undid a lot of his efforts during that race, and he almost lost another position and all of that. So, yeah, dramatic end for those drivers.
Yeah, not what they would have wanted. Oh, Colagrosso crawling across the line. I think I've run out of fuel there. Yeah, we've seen it before in Tier 2. We have seen it before. So it's not a complete sort of unknown. Just seeing who hasn't crossed the line. Got Matt York coming across the line now. Oh, Duracock actually finished down in 13th in the end. So he'll be disappointed with that.
Was just behind Meerveld as well at the end as well, but couldn't quite make it past. But I think that was kind of the last of the intense squabbles of our drivers.
I mean, that all got a little bit mad towards the end, didn't it? There was so many position changes. Here we go. We've got Kieran Patterson just jumping on board with him now. Obviously, lost a lot of times after that rejoin where he just could not get the traction down. So, but still crossing the line. Stayed out there, and to be fair, I don't think we actually... Oh no, we lost 2 races over the space of the evening. So I think regarding the weather, that was not bad at all. 2 races is nothing to sniff at, in my opinion. That's pretty damn fantastic. So, end results. So it was Jamie Nuttall in first, Mikowski in second, Roda in third after we saw that last lap, sort of absolute madness. Goltz in fourth, Pitchick fifth, Peachman sixth, Moe in seventh, Giacomelli in 8th, Steinhauser 9th. He'll be really pleased with that result. I think that's probably possibly his best result this season. And Colagrosso rounding out the top 10. Absolutely fantastic race this evening. A couple of incidents we saw, I think, looking worse than they truly were, simply due to the fact that the circuit's wet. It does tend to sort of make people... Any incident you have with someone is massively sort of amplified by the fact that you have no traction whatsoever. But I think that went fairly well for everyone in Tier 2 this evening. What are your opinions on it, John? Do you think it went reasonably well?
I think it certainly went reasonably well. We had, we've had a lot of drama and a lot of action. I see some slightly unhappy comments from Peachman after that last lap, which I'm not too surprised about. Obviously, the battle with with McCoskey. That was all very much fair and square. He made a mistake with his braking point down towards the first chicane, and McCoskey got that through. But yes, he will be rather frustrated about that contact with Galtz. But Lucas Roda, very opportunistic and great awareness and avoidance in all of that, getting himself a podium at the last kind of point, because he was a little bit in no man's land for a lot of that race. So to sneak his way up onto the podium on the final lap, I'm sure he'll be very pleased about that. But yeah, a very dramatic race with a lot of thrills and spills in all that. But Jamie Nuttall, you know, another absolutely a class performance. He's kept his 5-race streak now of finishing up on the podium, and he also becomes our first double winner this season, which I mean, you would have thought that based on the championship lead that he has, you would have assumed he already had 2 victories to his name, but yeah, an absolutely great performance. So any doubts that we had about him being able to convert that after qualifying, he completely squashed and really put that one together nicely. And I think actually we've got an interview prepared as well for the man that finished in P2, which is lovely to see.
We do indeed. Give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to swap over so we're not sat on this screen, and then we will drag him into the interview box and we'll have a quick chat. So just 2 seconds while we change over. That should be us on this screen. Hopefully voices still coming through just the same as they were before. Fingers crossed, and not being drowned out by the intro music. And I will now bring our man into the box. Good evening. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Fantastic effort for you this evening, mate. 2nd place and taking it right at the very end. Talk us through your strategy.
I don't know, like, from the inside, like, I just knew that, well, like, extend the stint as much as possible. And I was shocked when I left the pits because I was fighting basically for P3, P2 from, like, I don't know, P5, P6 when everyone started to pit. Incredible. Like, I have no words.
Well, I mean,
you weren't the only one that was shocked in all of that. I think you're right. I think it was P6. You were just behind Pitchick, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
When all did pit stops, and we just couldn't believe the amount of pace that you maintained throughout the race. You really managed to prolong those tires, and they just whereas they sort of seemed to fall off for some other drivers, you just kept them going and going and going and setting lap times that were quite often faster than most of the rest of the grid.
Like, from the experience, I knew that the tire wear on the wet tires is marginal, and throughout the whole stint, it can actually be faster or by the end of the stint. And I decided to rather have a free track in the front and just do consistent laps. And well, it worked.
yeah, it really did seem to. And we were saying that your endurance racing experience that you've got, obviously really coming in handy. The fact that you knew you could keep those tyres at a really good sort of operational temperature, not over pushing them, you could just keep them going for such a long time, and it really seemed like you made the right move. It really seemed like that later pit stop for your situation was the right move to make. So an absolute masterclass in what's the word? Strategy. That's the word. Masterclass in strategy from you this evening, and obviously coming away with 2nd place. Did you think you were going to get 2nd, or were you sort of pretty happy with 3rd place?
Like 3 laps to go, I decided, okay, like P3 is more than enough, because when I was fighting with McLaren, I got the last warning in a second chicane. So I was like, no, I don't want to throw up. But well, like McLaren made a mistake to approaching the first chicane, and I was like, okay, let's try. And I knew that there is a chance that he might overshoot it. So I actually like even brake earlier than I was supposed to do. So I just like I did a switchback, and like incredible. But sadly for the McLaren driver, because he got spun in the second to last corner, which is a big shame because we had a really nice fight and he definitely deserved P3.
Yeah, I would imagine after that incident, we're probably going to see some. I imagine some sort of report will be put in about that one. Yeah, it was a bit unfortunate that he ended up tumbling down the the order quite so much at the end.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate with all of that, but yeah, fantastic drive from you, and also I was handed honours today of sort of picking a driver a day of John's selection. Usually it'd be Tim's top pick, but I was handed that, and I was going to save this till sort of later on in the stream, but seeing as the man that I was going to award it to has joined us for an interview, that I thought I might as well say it whilst you're here. Without a doubt, from my mind, whilst Jamie Nuttall, put on an incredible performance at the front of the grid and led from start to finish, which is very admirable. I have to say that the daringness in your strategy, the consistency that you showed, the patience as well. For me, that made you my top pick from today's race. So huge congratulations on the podium, and the extra pride for what it may count for of the commentators' award, if nothing else.
Thank you.
So yeah, amazing stuff with that, and also next week the calendar will be heading over to Monza. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I think that was a track that used to suit the M4 really well, but I think with maybe more recent BOP changes, not sure how that might be faring now.
I think the M4 is still competitive there, even though it got nerfed. Jardier in the other league showed that the car still has decent pace, and we will see, to be honest, because Jamie in a Honda is uncatchable. Because Honda, he is a great driver, and Honda is just the best car for this season. But I think the BMW on Monza, I think might be similar. Like I don't know, but that's my prediction. I think that will be Honda and BMW track.
Well, certainly, obviously, yeah,
And
certainly,
McLaren.
yeah. There's a few that sometimes start to get into a competitive place of that. I think looking at the weather, it might not set you up for the same sort of wet weather masterclass strategy that you put on tonight. But I think without a doubt, as you say, the BMW will naturally have a bit more competitiveness there as well. So so fantastic stuff for that drive through the field tonight to get yourself another podium this season. And also in terms of standings, I think that's quite nicely re-cements your place second in the standings. Of course, the championship leader Jamie Nuttall has further extended his lead, but Watson in second place in the championship didn't have a great day today, so you'll be surging up in front of him, and I think Rhoda will be just joining behind you in P3 in standings. So yeah, really great stuff today, Mikoski. Congratulations on all that, and yeah, best of luck for next week as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us.
No problem. Like every single time, if I will get a podium, definitely I will join, because apparently no one wants to join you, which is sad. so let's hope that I will get another podium, so we'll have a chance to speak again.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, best of luck, and thank you for being the one driver that's popped in. It's been much appreciated.
Cheers, mate.
Bye bye.
Thank you. So there we go. That is the end of round 5 at Zolder. It was a very, very wet Zolder. We saw some great drives. Sort of little honourable mention I want to mention is actually Christian Steinhauser. He had a really good race. He ended up inside the top 10. I'm pretty sure he was 15th or 16th in qualifying. So a really good effort by him to get himself up through the order as well. But obviously, yeah, outstanding sort of drivers of the day is Jamie Nuttall, just for being absolutely ridiculously fast. I mean, good Lord, that man, we need to tie a weight round his leg or something, or try and jam something under the throttle pedal so he can't put it quite so far down. And then, as you said, Mikowski winning your top driver of the day. So absolutely, I think a great choice. I think a really, really smart choice on that one. I think I probably would have done the same if it was a Tim's top pick. So yeah, I think a really good race. As John said a moment ago, we're going to be at Monza next time round. Hopefully a little bit drier. According to the weather reports, it does look like it's going to be a much drier race. A track that I imagine most people that play ACC will be absolutely 100% practice with. It's one of those circuits that everybody races. Not a personal favourite of mine. But yeah, it's one of those tracks that everybody knows, and it is an absolute great honour to be going to the the real home of motorsport is Monza. I think that's probably the best way of putting it, isn't it? So, yeah, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to sign off and call it a night now. Thank you ever so much for joining me, John. Any final words?
Yeah, well, thank you, buddy, for leading tonight, epic as ever. And yes, and just one final little shout out from me. It also has to go to Ola Pitchik as well. He finished in the top 5 today, and so far this season, previous best finish I think was about 15th place. So he had a stellar effort in today's race. So yeah, today's race had everything. It had the drama, it had the action, we had strategy, we had overtakes, we had crashes, and we also had some drivers getting some fantastic personal best results for the season. So yeah, everything that we could have wanted really from tonight as Zolder, and Jamie Nuttall. Right now it's feeling a little bit like Verstappen in 2022 F1. Sort of just doesn't seem to be able to put a foot wrong at the moment. So looking forward to seeing what they all get up to next week.
Yeah, looking forward to it as well. Right, thank you ever so much. And obviously join us on Tuesday for Tier 2. And if you fancy a little bit of motorsport before that, Tier 1 on Mondays as well. Same time, same place, Apex Online Racing. So come and give us a watch. Thank you very much.
Cheers, everyone.